You're watching the Electronic Intifada live stream, and I'm Ali Abu Nama here with my colleague Nora Bowers-Friedman. Earlier today, Palestinian journalist Abubaker Abed addressed the Gaza Tribunal in London. Let's look at a short clip of him talking about Israel's systematic killing of journalists and the failure of their international colleagues to rise up in solidarity.
We've been failed by international media organizations and the committees to protect journalists over the course of the past 2 years. We've been calling on them for a very long time, but our calls have been fallen in deaf ears and blind eyes, unfortunately. And the targeted assassination of journalists has been clear, as I told you, and the reason behind that is that Israel would put up any claims and then they will hunt down any journalist.
So that was just a brief clip of Abubaker, who is, of course, a journalist from Deir al-Balah refugee camp in Gaza. We're very proud to call him one of our close colleagues here at the Electronic Intifada, where he's contributed many stories, and we'll talk about a couple of them a bit later. Before the genocide, Abubaker was a university student in Gaza, but became a journalist during the genocide by necessity, driven to tell the stories of his people. That made him a target, subject to direct threats to his life and the life of his family. As well as reporting for Press TV, Abubaker has appeared frequently on the Electronic Intifada live stream, and his extraordinary words and reportage have touched so many of us very deeply. In April, Abubaker was evacuated to Ireland with a group of other students from Gaza to take up scholarships to complete their studies at Irish universities. Last week, 52 more students from Gaza arrived in Ireland to continue their studies, an enormous relief for them and a credit to the enormous efforts that people across Ireland have made to support Palestinians. But it's also a bitter and traumatic experience of having to leave their families behind in Gaza as Israel intensifies its openly declared extermination campaign. Since arriving in Ireland, Abubaker has only intensified his journalism and his educational and advocacy work on behalf of his people. In fact, as I just said, I just returned from Ireland last night, and Abubaker and I spoke together at that event organized by the Ireland-Palestine Solidarity Campaign in Dublin. There we are. And the sessions, actually, that event is, you can watch the videos on the Ireland-Palestine Solidarity Campaign YouTube channel. You can find them there. And of course, as Nora mentioned over the weekend, Abubaker participated in the People's Conference for Palestine in Detroit remotely. There is so much to talk about with Abubaker, and we are so delighted to welcome him to the Electronic Intifada live stream from London. Hi, Abubaker.
Hi, how are
Hi,
you?
Abubaker.
I can't believe yesterday we were walking next to each other, and now we're separated by an ocean. But it's
Yeah,
I've
in
missed
the
you
most
already.
smartest countries in the world.
Yeah, but it's really good to see you. And we just saw that clip of you speaking about the murder of Palestinian journalists at the Gaza Tribunal in London. One of the more than 240 journalists murdered by Israel is Rasmi Salem. He was killed in an Israeli airstrike on Gaza City on Tuesday, and I was actually with you in Dublin when you heard that news. Rasmi was your cameraman in Gaza. Tell us a little bit more about him.
Well, he was only 25 years old, so nearly my age. He was the cameraman at Press TV, and he also worked with other media outlets. During the genocide, he's been displaced since the outset of Israel's genocidal war on the
Uh-oh.
distribution.
Abubaker, the sound cut out for a second, but you're back.
I think it's back.
Can you
Yeah.
can you hear
it's
me now?
back. Yeah.
Okay, so he's been displaced since the outset of Israel's genocidal war on the Strip. So he's been living in tents, taking shelter in tents, and he's been working hour in, hour out. And I remember being with him all the time. He wasn't only just a cameraman, but he was only a cameraman, but he always would drive us to the location of the reporting, to the palm down scenes, and to different scenes where we were reporting. And he was such a kind person, always trying to make jokes, and he was always upbeat and hopeful that this genocide would end. He also wanted to get married after the genocide. All that he dreamt of is that he and his family would survive this Holocaust and they would be together again and they would rebuild their house. But then Israel killed him. I mean, he was staying up for very, very long hours at night, like sometimes after midnight. I remember that when I was reporting from Gaza City during the ceasefire. So most of his days would be very, very long and exhausting hours of work and reporting and doing much work for Gaza. And he never had a rest. He never had a rest at all. He would work relentlessly, tirelessly in a way that no one in the world could do it. And he was just a simple human being, as everyone is in Gaza, and wanted to have a life, wanted to have a dream, wanted to have peace in his homeland. And he never lost that hope that he would survive the genocide. But unfortunately, he was just murdered. And this has really broken the hearts of so many people because he's worked with almost every journalist inside the besieged territory. So it's very heartbreaking.
Abubaker, I'm reminded of what our colleague and contributor Shahed Abu Salama said a couple weeks ago, that it's an open-ended funeral, that there's just a constant waves of grief and sadness, because people who community members, neighbors, friends, family, are all suffering and being hunted, especially the journalists. You're in constant touch with your family and friends in Gaza. What are you hearing about what they're facing right now, especially in your hometown of Deir al-Balah?
I think one of the things that is still striking me that I just heard yesterday was one of the people that I talked to, and they told me that our dream right now is to have a wall to sit against just inside the tent because we really can't have a rest. We really can't stand against the wall. I think if human beings in this world have reached this level of suffering, we're no longer useful. I don't think we're useful as a human world at all. And hearing from my family on a very daily basis, talking to them about what they eat every day, and my mother being suffocated from the wood fire uh, she cooks on every single day, and she says that like I can't continue doing that. So it's about the very basic necessities, and I always call Elul my 3-year-old niece, and she always cries for an egg, asks me for an egg, asks me for a bar of chocolate. I call her in the morning, and she's very boisterous, she's very happy, but children, she always asks her mother to ask me to bring her something from here, like a bar of chocolate or some snacks or some candies. But whenever her mother says that she and I can't do anything, she starts crying and she even starts asking her mother about fighting back against this blockade and trying to lift it. This is the innocence of children. And another woman that I was in talk to, and I think I pointed it out to Dr. Ali when we were in Dublin. She's Besma. I'm still in constant talk with her, and she didn't want to leave Gaza City, although it's under eviction orders at the moment. So she stayed there, and the first day she said she wouldn't leave because displacement is more bitter and thorny and heartbreaking than being killed. But then she said that she wished her dad were with them. He was killed in one of the wars on Gaza, and then she said she wanted to leave. But yesterday, I just received a voice note from her crying and begging me for help, begging me to help, and I'm trying to help her as much as I can. I'll do everything in my power, but she's really crying, and I can hear in the voice note in the background, I can hear the sounds of the shells, the sounds of the quadcopters above her head, and her groans and her very panicking sound is deeply, deeply traumatizing to hear. Everyone in Gaza has a tragedy to tell. Everyone in Gaza has a horror story. Gaza has turned into a horror film where people are watching, but they're not ready to act to stop it. So we're seeing in a totally different matter at the moment. But for the children, for everyone in Gaza, I can't even wrap my head around the fact that this is still ongoing and people are desperate for a piece of bread. And even I just heard from some people yesterday that they wanted to be starved rather than be displaced again. So for anyone, my family or whoever, it's beyond incomprehensible.
You and I mean you look healthy. You look finally, you know, like you've gained back the weight, and this is really important. And I know a lot of people asked me at the conference, for example, like how you were doing, how you know, how's your medical condition, and so I want you to talk about that as much as you want to. But you arrived in Ireland in April as one of the students evacuated. You've told the story of how your mother begged you to leave because she feared that Israel would target you and kill your entire family. We see that you've been tireless in speaking up about the situation in Gaza. Tell us how you've been doing since you've been in Ireland, and what advice can you give to those 52 students who are just now arriving from Gaza?
I think well, I believe my heart has been bearing a lot of pain since I left. And as I just told you, once I was in Gaza, that a grave in Gaza is much better for me than the paradise of Europe. However, this is what Israel has forced upon us. I mean, my family told me last time that they didn't want to be war wounded. They would prefer to be called all rather than be all war wounded and suffer more and more over the course of the next time or the next months or whatever. Holding up in such a situation, this is my first time traveling outside the strip, is a very cumbersome and arduous journey. I'm trying to help people in Gaza to report in the situation, to provide Palestinian voices inside trapped in the territory at the moment, and speaking up as much as I can. And I'm now like taking care of myself, cooking. My mum would help me normally before leaving Gaza. Being with your family would ease a lot of things, but now I am cooking, doing everyday chores. I'm speaking up. I'm talking to people in Gaza, trying to help them. I'm trying to take care of many things at the same time. I think for a 22-year-old, it looks like an impossibility. But what drives me to continue is I love my homeland. I want to do everything for it. I want to sacrifice for it, no matter what the cost is. And I'm sure my people are very reliant to me to amplify their voices outside. So that always is the speaking up no matter what. And that's why I've been probably relentless. I hope I've been doing something for my homeland, but we need our homeland to be free. We need the genocide to stop. So I just hope I'm doing something.
Oh, and in the time I spent with you, Abubaker, I could see that you are actually relentless all day long, talking to your family, talking to other people in Gaza. You receive lots of messages from people in Gaza, and you try to answer every one of them. I could see how busy you were. to the point where I was really urging you to take a break and rest. And I'm going to do that now in front of everyone who's watching, to really urge you to take care of yourself. And and I'm not going to mention the names of any of the students who arrived, just because we want to respect their privacy and let them speak out in their own time if they want to. But you knew some of them, not many of them, but you knew some of them, and I could see that throughout their journey from Gaza, that very, very long journey from central Gaza to the Kerem Shalom crossing, through occupied Palestine, into Jordan, and then on, you were reassuring them, telling them what to expect, speaking with their families, reassuring their families. I saw you do that for these students, and that was very important, that you shared your experience and knowledge with them, and help to guide them through this process. So I just want to let's turn, if we can. If you want to say something more about that, you're welcome to.
I
Abubaker.
just,
Yeah, go ahead.
I just really wanted to say that those students never wanted to leave Gaza, and I know people are desperate inside Gaza right now, and I know a lot of people may want to leave because they can't suffer anymore. However, I know a lot of people also, the vast majority of people who are very, very connected and rooted to the land, they want to continue, and they have pledged to themselves that they will never leave, no matter what the circumstances are. I just talked to my colleague, I can say his name, Ahmed Ibrahim, at the Brest of Venus, said to him, do you think of tribal genocide? And he said, never ever discuss this with me. I'm not going to leave at all. And I wish I were as brave as him, but the conditions are always different. And for people who are right now in the West, you know, it's a horrible experience. It's a very agonizing decision that will keep haunting them for a very long time. But in the end, I just want to say that there has to be more from Ireland. There has to be more from the UK, from these like countries, because like we've been through a lot, and these countries have been accomplices to the genocide in Gaza. So they have to do the least they can, but also to share the pain of my people and of my fellow students and my compatriots is really important for me, because we have to share the pain together, vent it together, and we have to help together until we make sure we're making something, we're doing something for Palestine, because the struggle will continue, and no matter what it takes, Palestine needs us, and Palestine will grow no matter what the cost is, even if it is our blood.
Mhm. We share that hope, and we're very glad. I know that it's something that tortures you and each and every person from Gaza, but we're very happy that you are safe in Ireland, and that those students are safe, and we wish that safety for everyone. Everyone deserves that, and we're just very glad that you're there. Let's take a look, Abubaker, at some of, just, this is only a small part of the work you've been doing, but you wrote a couple of stories for the Electronic Intifada recently. And let's start with the newest one, which focuses really on the situation of students. And actually, we wrote this together in Dublin, and it's the first time you and I have written an article together. So it was really something special for me. And it's the story of a prospective student who we call Haya, who is in Gaza, and Haya is her first name. She applied to a master's program in public health at the University of South Wales, and you can see the headline there, UK University, sorry for email, hinting at ban on Palestinian students. Give us just a brief outline of what happened here, Abubaker. You learned about this, you posted about it, and then we ended up writing the story. But what happened? Give us a brief sketch.
I think generally there is a lack of solidarity or understanding of the situation of Palestinian students in Gaza. And that lack of understanding and sympathy, which should be obligatory from other people across the globe, has led to other things, but sometimes it's deliberate. So I see a lot of students all the time, like asking me from Gaza, and they are trying to look for scholarships to get outside Gaza and continue their education because for 3 consecutive years there hasn't been any education inside the Gaza Strip. So for her, like when I saw her email, I was really shocked and I was really appalled by the email. So I contacted her directly and I asked her what happened with her. And she said she applied recently, hoping that she would get a scholarship and she would be evacuated by the UK government to join this university. Nonetheless, she was very appalled and very disappointed by the reply she got. And then she felt like she was an outcast. And then she told me, like, I couldn't even imagine it. And it was for me, like, very racist and very indiscriminate, something that she never imagined that she would really receive. So,
And just for those, Abubaker, just for those who aren't familiar with the details, she had sent an application to the University of South Wales, and she received a reply from the admissions office that said, "Thank you for your recent application. Regrettably, no applications from Palestine are being considered at this time. Therefore, your application has been withdrawn." And then she posted that on Twitter X, and then you reposted it, and it was seen millions of times. Actually, there were millions of views and a lot of outrage. And then uh, we contacted the university. We wrote to the University of South Wales, and they, after we contacted them, they wrote to Haya and they told her it had all been a mistake and that they had mischaracterized her uh, application as being for 2025 when it was actually for 2026. And they'd reinstated it and they were now going to consider it. And they said, we don't have any policy against Palestinian students. So they backed down in the face of this outrage. And exactly what happened, we can't attribute a motive to them. It might have been some mischief, but it may well have been a really unfortunate mistake. And then they did apologize publicly, just to, as we detail in the story. But talk about really what it means. Suppose a university in the UK or somewhere else in Europe accepts a student from Gaza. I mean, they're not just going to be able to go, right?
yeah, because I think because I remember when I was in London last time, I talked to one of the secretaries of the MPs, and she told me that the reasons behind that are two. First, there is a lot of pressure by the Zionist groups on the UK government to accept Palestinians overall from Gaza, under the pretext that they are seen as terrorists. And the second reason is that the UK government makes up an excuse that the biometric examination cannot be done in Gaza, and that's why we can't get them out if they don't have a biometric examination. And the fact is that the UK government or the UK embassy in Gaza office has been destroyed, so they can't do it at all. And the UK government is aware of that, but until now, we haven't seen no change. We have seen no change from the UK government. But recently, I think they started to accept more of the situation. And as far as as far as I'm aware, there will be an evacuation for those 40 Palestinian students from the UK into Gaza after pressure from groups because, well, I've been told by the secretary that there have been many emails and the inbox of the government has been flooded by many emails from the MPs and from outside the parliament urging them to accept Palestinians, specifically Palestinian children who have been injured by Israel under the auspices of the UK government.
Can you also talk about a story that you wrote headlined BBC Guidelines Endanger and Offend Gaza Interviewees? You've been speaking to young people in Gaza who were contacted by the BBC to give interviews, and you write about one in particular called Lamis. It's not her real name. What happened with her and some of the other people you write about in this story, and what does it say about the nature of Western legacy corporate media, or Western state-run media, as the BBC is?
These three people are not the only ones. The BBC has done this with many interviewees in Gaza. So as a condition to accept interviewing them, they would ask them these questions: do you have any political affiliations, or do you support Hamas? And the BBC, I think these guidelines have been updated after taking down Gaza, how to live, how to survive a war zone for Palestinian children, after a lot of the pressure from Abdullah Yazuri. He's a son of an agricultural minister and the government in Gaza.
And that was the
So
BBC documentary that the BBC
was spoke
uh,
out.
pulled after pressure from Zionist groups because it featured a child who was whose father they claimed is affiliated with Hamas. A child, a 13-year-old child, I think it was.
Yeah, but Hamas is a government in there.
Yeah, it was his father was like, some sort of like public works. I mean,
Yeah,
he's
but
like
a child is a
yeah,
child. No
exactly.
matter
That's
who
it.
his father was, the
Exactly.
child is just a child.
Experiencing a genocide.
Yeah.
Definitely, but this is like the brutality of Israel and the Zionist groups all across the globe. And unfortunately, everything like for the Western media, because we've mentioned it, the BBC will never ever ask Israelis if they or their parents have participated in genocide. They will never ask Israelis if they belong to the Likud or Shas parties in Israel. They will never ask them these questions. But the BBC will keep platforming them, and we have seen Western media, including Channel 4, which was at the tribunal today, along with Sky News and along with other media outlets in the UK, which are very complicit in the genocide. So you would see them platforming even extremists, even ICC warranted ministers, and you would see, sorry, so you would see like the former formed, and it seems for me like they will never, like they will say that we are neutral and this is a two sides war, but in their stories we'd see that the Israeli military says, but they will never see or write Hamas says. So it's not a two sides war for them, but they are masquerading as impartial reporters, which is untrue. Western media legacies, no, there will be, inshallah, hung up at the museum, the Genocide Museum, where all of them will be prosecuted at the best court possible, and they have to pay for the war crimes they have justified and they have laundered over the course of the past 2 years. And unfortunately, until now, they haven't even changed. They are still perpetuating this genocide. They are still regurgitating and parroting Israel's lies, because simply they are cheap sellouts. They're ready to sell their humanity for a few pounds, and that's how they are. That's what the Western world has been about. Like, I walked around here, I'm seeing a lot of buildings draped by Ukrainian flags, but you would never see a Palestinian flag next to it. You would never see that at all. This can tell you the double standards and the hypocrisy and sycophancy of the Western world. And instead, like, there is another point about Western media. Whenever an Israeli minister would open up on genocidal rhetoric or speak up about genocide and even support it, they will never report it. But imagine if a Palestinian would say that, it would be everywhere on every headline. So we have to hold them accountable, and we have to do that. We must do that.
And your story did do that because it contains actual screenshots of the WhatsApp chats between BBC producers subjecting young people in Gaza to this political screening, these political litmus tests to decide whether or not they might be allowed to be interviewed. And of course, um, as you said, we've never seen any sense that the BBC subjects Israelis to the same kind of political screening and testing. And that shows really the built-in bias of the BBC, which has really just become a mouthpiece for the British government and the Zionist movement. So it's an extraordinary piece of journalism, and one really that I think only someone like you could have done with the insights and experience that you have. So we were very proud to publish it at the Electronic Intifada, Abubaker.
And I'm very proud to be a part of you. And as I just showed you the clip today, so they talked about those media outlets supporting Palestinian journalists, and the first one is you that I mentioned.
You did send me that. You did send me that. I don't know
I think
if we're
Tamara
able.
can play it. I think
Maybe
it's
Tamara can play it. I didn't give it to before. Oh well, here we go.
Unfortunately, only the independent media outlets that are very supportive of journalists in Gaza. I work with the Electronic Intifada and Dropside News, which are independent media outlets in the US, and they're very supportive of journalists inside Gaza.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Abubaker. We're really honored. And I think in the longer clip, Jeremy Corbyn was sitting right next to you, right? Or he was there.
No, he was in on the other panel.
I see. Okay, I'm mixing it up because I saw it earlier. But anyway, I hope he heard that because
he asked me this question.
He asked you that question.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good. So I'm glad a lot of people heard you today in London, and I know you're going to keep speaking out through all the means you have. You are so prolific in your writing, doing interviews, in speaking around Ireland, and you've been in the UK, and you're going to keep doing it. But please, Abubaker, on behalf of all of us, take care of yourself, get plenty of rest, and stay strong. We love you very much. And the Electronic Intifada is your home. So come back anytime. We're always here for you.
Thank you so much.
When do you start classes? Soon, right?
I actually don't know.
Yeah.
Well, we can't wait to hear. It's going to be.
But plenty. I just wanted to say the plenty of rest is seeing you and seeing the great people of the Electronic Intifada, and thank you so much for what you're doing. And I'm so honored and proud to represent you wherever I go. And I wish I would be doing it weren't under such circumstances, and maybe one day, and I believe in that, we would report on a free Palestine, inshallah, and that's going to be the case and the end of this Holocaust. But thanks, really big thanks to the audience behind the screens, and I mean, you're the hope. All of us must carry that hope until we're making the history with that hope. So we need to continue doing what we're doing, and thank you so much, and thanks for pushing me to work. You needed me to rest, but you pushed me for work in Ireland.
Oh my goodness. Both work and rest in good balance. Work and rest in good balance, but you're doing an extraordinary job. We're very proud of you.
Next time, inshallah, from New York, I'll join you. Now 3 cities. Next time from New York.
We'll talk about that.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care, Abubaker. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. And thank you.
Bye. All the best. Love and hope for you.
Bye.